Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of my Orc Shaman level 1 through 60 playthrough here in the Season of Discovery. Our last episode we spent the entire episode exploring Durotar, the first zone in the game from the perspective of Orc and Troll players, and of course Undead and Thorn can come here to do stuff as well as any member of the Alliance, but they might not find many quests to do here except for one where you can actually get the quest from the Goblin here. But beyond all of that, we are going to go to the next zone in the game, the second zone that is available to us, and it is the Barrens, where Durotar is technically kind of part of the Barrens in like lore, even though the red rocks of Durotar is a little bit different than like the grassy plains of the Barrens. But let's go ahead and pick up this quest where we are going to become a conscript of the Horde, where basically we have proven ourselves in the Valley of Trials, and we have proven ourselves in Durotar against the Burning Blade, as well as all the other threats that threaten the Horde. So we are now going to go into the Barrens as kind of more of an official member of the Horde, I suppose, where we are going to get some work assigned to us in the Crossroads by other members of the Horde, where of course we have our Shaman quest that I want to work on, and then we have another quest related to the Burning Blade that I was working on at the end of last episode. The last couple of minutes I was doing stuff like that, and we can go ahead and work on those. But first things first is to follow along this road out of Durotar and into the Barrens, where a little bit of an update on the Season of Discovery. Most of the runes, if not all the runes, I haven't checked, have been discovered, and the methods to get them have been discovered, and people have been really excited about all of that. And I've only taken a look at a couple of them because I don't want to spoil everything just this moment, but I'll probably at some point kind of just look at them all. But I took a look at the dual wield specialization rune for for shamans in general, where I want to get that rune, but it looks like it is a big adventure to do that, where at a minimum we have to be like kind of a level 20 to 25, which 25 is the level cap, and we need to put in a lot of work to get all of that, where I may wait until we are a little bit of a higher level than that, even in the next content phase, to go get that dual wield rune, so it is a little bit easier for us. But alas, here we are at the South Fury River, where we can go ahead and cross this bridge here. One of two bridges, I think, where there is one further north up along the river out of a side exit of Orgrimmar, where we can cross this river and enter the Barrens, where we have this location right here, which I believe is called Farwatch Post, if I recall correctly. Yes, it is Farwatch Post. I feel very proud of myself there, where we have a bunch of stuff we can do. So let's go ahead and talk to this warlock right here, turn in this quest, and then we need to grab a flamed power stone, bring it to the altar of fire before the stone expires, then return to Ak-Zaloth. So I think this is a quest that I might pick up later, and we'll get this nice, actually it's not as good as what we currently have equipped, but we'll get that piece of Banshee armor, which looks decently cool. So I'm going to come back for this quest because it is a timed quest and I don't want to do it right now, and I think it is a level 14 quest. I could probably do it right now, level 12, but I think it's probably better that we wait. But we have our recruitment letter here, and we can go ahead and go to the Crossroads, where the Crossroads and the Barrens are very iconic locations in World of Warcraft. Because now that we're in the Barrens, let's go ahead and take a look at our map, where we have Durotar right here on the side, and we have all these locations, but now we have the Barrens. And the Barrens is one of the two largest zones in the entirety of World of Warcraft, at least in the vanilla version of the game, where the other one of this size is Stranglethorn Vale that we'll start going to around level 30, and we'll start exploring there. So that's a little ways away. But the Barrens is massive, and it is the second zone in the game for 3 different races of the Horde, where the 4th race, the Undead, can also come here and do quests. And then we see Alliance coming here and doing quests, where they run through here to go to different areas. And there's also Ratchet that they can go to, where Ratchet leads to Stranglethorn Vale, the other biggest zone of the game, which is kind of fun that they're connected. And there's 2 dungeons here, and it's basically a zone that lasts from like level 10/level 12 all the way to level 25 to level 30-ish, somewhere in that range, where basically the highest level quests are level 25, I think, but I think there's like something to do at level 30, but for the most part our adventures in this zone will be done around the level of 25. But let's go ahead and start off with the earlier quests of level 10, where of course, just like many other people, we will be spending a long time in this zone, so there is a lot to explore, where we have a special quest as a shaman, and there's also a special quest that we can actually potentially pick up here, where we have Chin's empty keg, where we talked a little bit about Chimp's storm stout last episode, and his keg, like the one right here, spawns in random spots around the Barrens, and we can go ahead and just grab this keg here at Groldom farm, and we can go ahead and pick up this quest that we can go turn in elsewhere in the world. But we have Cranial Fist here, where we can turn in Caw of Fire, and then we can go ahead and bring the Torch of Dormant Flame to Telf Julim and Durotar. And this is going to be along the South Fury River, where I believe we can go there now. Yes, we have Torch of the Dormant Fire, and I'm just going to leave that there, and I believe that's everything we need to do for this quest, where if we read through it, you are powerful enough to wield the Totem of Fire, but that does not mean you are ready. Along the South Fury River in Durotar, before the Great Sea, lies a hidden trail to one of the highest peaks in the land. Find your way to the top, and you shall find one of our holy shrines watched over by Telf Julim, the Shrine of the Dormant Flame. Take this torch to him, and marks that you attempt to tame fire. Return it to me aflame by the brazier at the shrine, and I will see you are given the Totem of Fire. So let's go ahead and come back this way a little bit, and then we can re-enter Durotar, and we can go towards Telf Julim right here, near the Valley of Trials where we started, but kind of on the outside of the Valley of Trials. We can see off in the distance here the trail that leads up the mountain here, carved out in the side of the mountain. So let's go ahead, ignore all the mobs attacking us right now, and let's go ahead and journey up this mountain, which this is another one of those locations that I talked about, where we just go to really cool, kind of like obscure, like far away, distant areas of the world in order to commune with nature and to basically channel the powers of the elements eventually. Where this one is to do with fire, where we started off at the start of this Let's Play series in episode 1, communing with Earth and basically gaining our Earth Totem, where I have used my Earth Totem a little bit, but I am definitely excited to use the Fire Totem, because the Earth Totem is very defensive for the most part. They give you buffs, like this one gives you strength, which is nice, and then this one basically taunts creatures, and one slows you down, and one basically gives you some extra defense. Where fire totems are very offensive, and a lot of them can just blast your enemies, which is nice, and we can go ahead and have a lot of fun with all of that. But here we are atop this mountain, and we can see into the Valley of Trials. Over there, right here where my cursor is where we fought Sarkoth, and on the other side of this ridge is where we started our adventure. And then we can see all the way over here is the Barrens, where the next big chunk of our adventure is going to take place. But in the meantime, let's talk to Telf Julim here, and let's go ahead and pick this up, where we need one fire tar and one reagent pouch, and we have to get that from the Razor Mane in Eastern Barrens, as well as the Burning Blade northeast of Razor Hill. So let's go ahead and depart from this location, and let's go and try to get to those two items very quickly. I might be in a little bit of a sticky situation here, but I do have a health potion, so maybe that will come in handy. And then there's this defender here that's kind of threatening me as well. I'm going to use a health potion. I think I'm probably dead either way, so let's go ahead and get to a safe position to maybe respawn at. Unless, I don't want to go all the way down there. So I think there's going to be a fireball coming through this mountain. Maybe I'll healing wave here, and maybe that will let me live. And it looks like the Geomancer is here. So maybe we can potentially just use our Blood Fury here, and then maybe I can block the attack. 5 health, healing wave, it goes through. I still think we're dead, but it was a valiant effort. It might happen again. Let's use the really sticky glue, and let's back up a little bit. My health, or my mana, is regenerating a lot right now, so maybe we can go ahead and get a couple of healing waves off, or actually just one that kind of healed me all the way to full. I think that was a crit. And let's come back in and try to finish off this defender, which of course I need to fight these Geomancers in order to get the fire tar. There's the fire tower I needed so I can get out of here. But of course we will be returning to Thornhill in the future because there are some quests that I need to do around here, but we have to pick up those quests first. So we just got a little bit of extra experience from killing a bunch of the Quillboar there, and let's go ahead and get towards the next place where I might make a quick stop on the way. Whereas I am passing through Razor Hill to go kill a bunch of Burning Blade enemies, I want to come to the Shaman trainer really quickly because I trained at the end of last episode and threw some stuff on my bar, but I didn't train a fire totem, and I think I want to come here and just do that really quickly. So if we come Teach Me the Way of Spirits, we have Fire Nova totem, and I think we're going to learn another totem as well, but I just want this one, which I cannot currently use right now since I don't have a fire totem, but we are pretty close to unlocking that. Where we can leave the barracks there, and we can come around to this corner to this tree, and we can leave out of the side entrance of Razor Hill here, which I really like how there's like a big fence all around this place, but there's like a bunch of openings in the fence that have guards stationed at it that we can go through to get to different areas of Durotar. Where like we could go out the front entrance and then just walk over here, but it's really nice to just go out that entrance, and there's one just like this on the other side that's nice to get towards the coast and whatnot. But let's get to that cave. Where here's the cave, and I believe I need to fight my way through it a bit in order to find a reagent pouch that if we come into here, one of the cultists of the Burning Blade has a reagent pouch. So my questie is not showing the thugs or the neophytes to drop them, and it looks like we have to go really far into the cave, Dustwind Cave. So let's go ahead and do just that. So I see a cultist right here. Let's go ahead and maybe, oh, there's one down there, so pull the cultist around here and then try to kill both the imp and the cultist. Now hopefully you get the pouch off this drop, but there are others around, so it looks like we did get the pouch there. And I think I'm going to go ahead and Hearthstone to Razor Hill, which might be the last time we ever use our Hearthstone to Razor Hill, just so I can get out of this cave a little bit more easily, and because it's kind of like on the way to where we need to go, so I can just Hearth here. And then I think I'm going to set my Hearthstone to the next town once we get there, where in the meantime let's go ahead and return to the top of the mountain near the Valley of Trials and turn in this quest to continue our adventure to unlocking a fire totem. Back at the top, let's go ahead and talk to our troll friend here once again, where we can turn in the Call of Fire and we can get the Fire Sapta, which will allow us to interact with the fire elementals around here. And now we must defeat the minor manifestation of fire and place the glowing ember in the brazier atop the Shrine of Eternal Flame. So we have this Fire Sapta. Let's go ahead and consume this. Is it right here? Oh, it looks like someone else is here doing the same thing. So let's consume the Fire Sapta, and then we can come up here where there's a minor manifestation of fire that looks like spawns every now and then. So let's go, oh, of course, the fire elemental is immune to fire. So let's go ahead and rely on our Earth Shock here, and it looks like he used Flame Shock on S. And let's go ahead and get the glowing ember, and then we have the brazier of dormant flame right here where I'm taking a lot of damage. Let's go ahead and just healing wave here, get this glowing ember, and let us put it on the brazier where we can put the two things there, and we can get the Torch of Eternal Fire and bring the Torch of Eternal Flame to Cranial Fists in the Barrens. So we are done with this area here. I might go ahead and help out this person as well, since they were here helping us. So it's kind of just returning the favor, and then we can return to the Barrens and kind of go back to where we were and talk to Cranial. And I wonder if there's a quick way down the mountain. This is probably going to lead to disaster, but let's come over here. And it looks like we can't really get into the water, but it looks like there's kind of steps down a little bit, or like, you know, further down places in the mountain that we can fall to that isn't falling like all the way down to the mountain. And we're back to the road right here. All right, let's just drop down to the road here, and now we are back down. So let's go ahead, cross back into the Barrens, and continue forward. Back at the farm, let's go ahead and talk to Cranial Fist, where we can turn in the final quest of this quest chain, and we have gotten our fire totem right here, and we also got this buff. Rock skin increases our armor and stamina, and we also learned a Searing totem, so we have learned 2 new totems this episode. All right, let's go ahead and try them out, and I might go ahead and throw this up here to just organize my inventory a little bit, where we have this fleeting plain strider right here. Let's go ahead, grab its attention, and then let's use a searing totem that we can put down on the ground right there, and it would blast our enemies with fireballs basically every now and then, every few seconds. That would deal a decent amount of damage and kind of just help us out. And then we have Fire Nova totem here, that is another offensive totem, and it is going to occasionally just to deal a ton, or it only does it once. So summon a Fire Nova totem that has 5 health and lasts 5 seconds. Unless it is destroyed within 4 seconds, the totem inflicts 48 to 56 fire damage to enemies within 10 yards. So this is a high mana costing yet high damage dealing totem that is really nice just against any enemies, but especially groups. So I'll just leave that on my bar for now, and I might have to mess around with all these different spells right here. But let's go ahead and open our quest log here, because we have instructions to get to the Crossroads. Follow the western road from Cargo's far watch post at the T intersection, turn left and follow the road south. Where we have this T intersection here, and we can turn left, which leads us to the Crossroads and to Mulgore. And then we have Ashenvale if we go to the right, and then we have Durotar behind us. So let's go ahead and turn left, follow the sign and the road to Crossroads, the Gold Road, and you can find Surgra Darkthorn at the crossing of roads within the Crossroads. So the Crossroads, which we see coming up in front of us, is the largest Horde encampment here in the Barrens, with only one other of similar size. And then there is a neutral town as well. But the Crossroads is where we are going to be spending a lot of our time in this episode, doing a lot of quests around here, where we can look on our map right now, which we see there are a ton of quests for us to pick up. And it looks like there are 2 players dueling on the road here, the Gold Road, which is a very kind of famous road because it goes all the way from Ashenvale all the way through the Barrens to the southern tip of the Barrens that leads into another zone called the Thousand Needles, which we'll be getting to sometime in the future. But here we have the Crossroads, and we have a ton of quests we can pick up, as well as one quest we can turn in. So let's go ahead and run around, where we have this quest right here that is a very cool quest, because it's going to basically teach us a special mechanic in the game called the Flight Master. But before we check that out, let's go ahead and go to all the other quest objectives around here to pick up the quests. Where we have Surgra Darkthorn, who's kind of the leader of this town, so we can go ahead and turn in this quest and then pick up a new one that is going to lead to a very long quest chain that will have us do a bunch of stuff in the Barrens. But we have another quest around here, and then a bunch more to the northwest in this town. We have Thork, who leads the defenses of the town, and we can go ahead and pick up these 2 quests. We have an undead apothecary over here that we can go ahead and pick up a couple of quests, including this quest that is going to take us to the neutral goblin town of Ratchet that we can go check out in a moment. And then I missed the quest at the top of the watchtower here, so let's run up there, pick up this quest, and then let's go ahead and check out the Flight Master and Flight Paths, where, of course, in our Human Mage Let's Play series, we went to Flight Masters, and we can basically learn different Flight Master, Flight Path points around the road, where we have this quest that we can turn in, that we are now going to get a quest to go to Orgrimmar. And we could run all the way back to Orgrimmar if we wanted to, but we can go ahead and talk to the Windrider Master here. And we have a flight path here in Orgrimmar, and then we have the flight path here in Crossroads. In the Barrens, there are 2 more flight paths that we can learn, and then there are flight paths all around Kalimdor. And then if we ever take a Zeppelin to the Eastern Kingdoms, we can learn flight paths there as well, and unlock a similar service of transportation. But let's go ahead and take this flight path to Orgrimmar, where we can fly on a wyvern, where in our Human Mage Let's Play series, once again, we flew mostly on griffins, but we also flew on some hippogriffs, where the griffins were mostly around the Eastern Kingdoms, and then the hippogriffs were around Kalimdor. Where as a Horde character, we have this wyvern right here that we can fly on mostly around Kalimdor, and then when we go to the Eastern Kingdoms, we can experience another animal that we can fly on. Whereas we come into Orgrimmar here, we are flying in, and we can land at the top of the central tower, which overlooks the bank and the auction house, and has a nice path that takes us towards the War Chief, and also to the Valley of Spirits and other locations. But just for this quest, we have to drop down here, turn in this quest, and then we are going to get a quest to come back to the Wyvern Master here, and then we can go ahead and take a Wyvern back to the Crossroads, so we can go ahead and do all of that. Where now that we are done with all that, let's go ahead and take the eastern road out of the Crossroads, where of course the Crossroads is like a plus intersection where we can go north, west, south, or east. So I'm going to go ahead and go east, which is going to take us to the coastline here of the Barrens that leads to the Great Sea, where if we kind of zoom out a little bit, we have Kalimdor here, the Veiled Sea and the Great Sea, and if we zoom out once again, we have part of Azeroth, which of course this gets expanded upon, expansion over expansion in World of Warcraft. But in vanilla we have the other continent of the Eastern Kingdoms, where of course we have this boat here and Ratchet that will take us to Stranglethorn Vale, and then we also have a Zeppelin up here in Orgrimmar that one will take us to a different spot in Stranglethorn Vale, and one will take us to the Undercity around here in Lordaeron, where we have a lot of quests and we will explore this area in the future. But I want to go ahead and just come to Ratchet because there are a bunch of quests for us to pick up, including a couple for us to turn in, and then we can go ahead and begin working on all the quests around here, where we have this goblin right here who is a member of Ratchet that we can talk to, and there's not really any items that I want to get, but I can just repair here, where of course the goblins of the Steamweedle cartel are friendly to both the Alliance and the Horde, and the four respective towns of Ratchet and Booty Bay and Gadget Sand and Everlook, which are located all around the world, one of which is right here in Ratchet, and then the boat here goes to Booty Bay, one of the other towns, are friendly to both the Alliance and the Horde. So we will mostly be seeing some Horde around here in the Barrens, but we will definitely pass by some Alliance kind of passing through this area, and then we can also likely see some Alliance located here in Ratchet that we can interact with by running past them, or if they were flagged for PvP we could fight them, or we could duel them, we could challenge them to a duel, but I'm mostly just going to run past them, just like this Night Elf Rogue and this Human Paladin right here. So we'll leave them to their own devices, and we can go ahead and come down here, and we see Ratchet right here along the coast, which Ratchet, the leader of Ratchet, is Gazlo, who is a very prominent goblin in World of Warcraft, who helped the Horde build Orgrimmar, yet they're, you know, kind of allied with the Alliance. They just make transactions with both the Horde and the Alliance. But of course, the Steamweedle cartel is only one of many different cartels of goblins that exist in World of Warcraft, where there are two other big ones. In Vanilla WoW, there's the Venture Company, who we will be fighting a lot in this Let's Play series, who are basically kind of like the evil, threatening nature type of people that we can deal with. And then there's also the Bilgewater cartel, who we don't really interact with much until Cataclysm. Remember, goblins of the Bilgewater cartel join the Horde as a playable race. But let's go ahead and come over here to Brewmaster John, where we can turn in Chin's Empty Keg, and we can go ahead and pick up a new quest to kind of brew some beer of Storm Stout right here, or whatever the technical alcohol name is. And let's go ahead and come up here where we have a Blood Elf or a High Elf right here, Captain Thalothas Brightsun, which I think this is a Blood Elf, where we see these models right here are basically Night Elf models, but they are pale instead of purple, and they are models used for both the Blood Elves and the High Elves until the Burning Crusade of the first expansion. But we have this quest that is a level 20 quest that we will not be doing for a long time. And I have a new talent point that I can spend that I'll go ahead and throw into Ancestral Knowledge. But let's go ahead, come over here where we can pick up Raptor Horns, a level 18 quest that we probably won't be doing for a little bit. And then let's come over here where I can pick up this Wanted Poster quest, and then we have to come to the docks really quickly to talk to Wharfmaster Dizzywig, which this quest we picked up in the Crossroads. And then we can of course pick up another quest, and then let's come over here where we have two more quests that we can pick up, and then there is also this Flight Master here. The green exclamation point is an unlearned flight path. So let's talk to Sputter Valve where we can pick up Samouflange, kind of a infamous quest, you could say, that we can do. And then let's talk to Bragok, the Flight Master, which if we look at our flight path here, we see we have the Crossroads and Orgrimmar, and now we have a Ratchet, where that Voidwalker was being a little weird right there. But let's go ahead and come into here, where of course we have Gazlo, and just like a lot of the important characters in World of Warcraft,
Sure could use your help, kid.
he has a special dialogue whenever you click on him, where we can go ahead and fight some of the pirates that make the coastline just south of here their home. where we now have 14 quests in our quest log, and there's a 15 quests that I have not picked up yet because it is a timed quest. So I have a lot of stuff to do now, where if you look at our map with questy icons everywhere, we can see that basically our entire map is filled up, and we now have a good opportunity to begin questing. But really quickly, I want to come into the inn because I already see this night elf right here, a scholar of exotic fauna, where she says, Ishnu Allah, adventure, I am Neora Anihart, and I have traveled far and wide to study the wondrous and exotic fauna that inhabit Kalimdor. If you happen upon any strange magical creatures in your travels, I'd be eager to study and catalog your findings. So I'm not sure what that is for, but that is very interesting. But I believe it is this character right here, Grisby, where he says, no offense, but I get the impression you can't afford my services. I'm looking for customers of the nation state variety. Maybe come back once you're a bit more important. Where this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy and difficult question that we can do when we're like level 25-ish, where we can unlock a vendor where we can spend 5 gold, where we currently have 47 silver, to get the dual wield specialization rune. So that is something to look forward to. But now I think I'm going to go ahead and head back out into the Barrens, and we can go back to the Crossroads and begin working out of that area and work on all the quests. And while I do that, let's go ahead and talk a lot about the lore and story of the Barrens and some other topics that I want to talk about in this episode. The Barrens is a really interesting zone because I was just talking about how large of a zone it is, where it is very similar in size in Stranglethorn Vale, where in the Cataclysm expansion, both Stranglethorn Vale and the Barrens are actually split into 2 zones, as 2 distinct zones in that expansion. But here in Classic World of Warcraft, it spans a lot of levels, it's a very large zone, and it all has one general chat that is very infamous. And it's just like a really big zone that we spent a lot of time doing stuff in, as I am about to do a lot of quests in this zone over a long period of time. But there's really not too much to talk about when it comes to the quests individually, where the Barrens is a fun zone to level through, but it's kind of a boring zone compared to other places where there's not too much to talk about. Like I just said, there's nothing super interesting going on. All the quests are kind of basic, and a lot of people actually dislike the Barrens, where it's definitely not my favorite zone in the game, but I like it a decent amount. But I definitely understand why a lot of people don't enjoy leveling through it, because it lasts for a very long time and it's all the same shade of brown, and there's not too much of like an interesting story going on beyond like some stuff when it comes to like becoming a member of the Horde and basically like doing some hunting and fighting back against the Alliance, which I'm not going to do in this episode, and some other cool things, especially in like the Southern Barrens when it comes to the Quellbore. But the Barrens is a large zone in central Kalimdor, controlled mostly by the Horde. It is a massive savanna with a few oases in the north central region around the Crossroads, and with low mountains serving as natural borders. Long ago, the Barrens was mostly forests, tended to by the Night Elves. The combination of the Burning Legion War and the Great Sundering turned the woodland into a barren expanse. Now, the divided Barrens are a shade of their glory, one that is in short supply in this dry place. Despite this, it is more than infertile soil and sand. The Barrens was once a verdant, thriving forest tended to by the Caldori. An expeditionary force sent by Queen Ajara established the outpost of Thin Relor in the lush wilds. It is said that during the War of the Ancients, the demigod Logosh confronted the Burning Legion in the lush land that later became the Barrens. After the Great Sundering, war and disaster raged across the land, turning this valley of nature into the harsh, sun-scorched plain it is today. It is said that at some point a person named Dethorin arrived to the land after he had found his Alerna and arms of her lover. Dethorin cried out, and the sands of the Barrens burst forth the axe Kilmaim, with which he killed Alerna. For countless generations, the Thorn roamed the plains of the Barrens, honoring their people and culture, hunting the mighty Kodo thunder lizards, cheetah, and zebra, and seeking the wisdom of their eternal goddess, the Earth Mother. Their tent settlements are scattered across the landscape and changed with the seasons and the weather. The wandering tribes are united only by a common hatred for their sworn enemy, the marauding centaur. The centaur hunted the Thorn for sport and launched intermittent attacks on their foes, taking a heavy toll on both sides. The Thorn did not shy away from combat and made the centaur pay for every unprovoked attack. But they had no love for war and always opted to find a new home rather than throw their lives away whenever the horsemen appeared. As such, the Thorn lived in a constant cycle of upheaval, and a year of peace was always followed by a year of war. The Shuholo accepted the cycle of conflict as inescapable, as it was the only life they knew, but that would eventually change. When the orcs under the new war chief Thrall and Darkspear trolls from Darkspear Islands landed on the Barrens, it saw civilization anew. First, the area was crossed by the Warsong clan, led by Grommash Hellscream. Then, Thrall reunited his warriors scattered on the shore, and the Horde then helped the Bloodhoof Tauren at their village. The Tauren and the Horde marched through the Barrens, visiting its oases and finding a group of Warsong warriors. The Tauren crossed the Barrens into Mulgore, fighting against Centaur warbands and ultimately triumphing over them. After the Warsongs were corrupted by the Burning Legion, they took the area near the northern border of the Barrens. Thrall, Cairn, and Jaina fought against the Fell Orcs and their demonic allies. Following the Battle of Mount Hyjal, Thrall led the Horde to the Eastern Barrens and claimed it as their own, fighting the local Razormane Quobor and naming the land Durotar, with its capital, Orgrimmar. 1 year before the events of World of Warcraft, the Barrens was considered neutral territory, serving as a buffer between Theramore and Durotar. Meanwhile, tensions were also rising between the Horde and Theramore. Though Thrall and Jaina desperately attempted to keep the peace between their two kingdoms, the Horde grew out of Thrall's control when his chief warrior Burks took an army of orcs and trolls to Northwatch Hold, whose buildup of human forces was viewed as an act of aggression, and demanded they dismantle it. After the battle began, Jaina contacted Thrall with information that his Burks was working with the orcish end of the Burning Blade cult. Infuriated at the idea that an orc would once again serve the Legion, the demon Zomodor was pulling the strings of the cult. Thrall immediately stopped the battle with some impressive aid from the spirits and denounced Burks. When the warrior protested that he was acting within the Horde's interests, Thrall smashed his skull with a Doomhammer. Jaina and Egwene confronted Zomodor in Dreadmist Peak and successfully banished him into the Twisting Nether. The Horde built new settlements among the dry grasses and arid hills and placed the Barrens solidly into the heart of Horde territory. The Horde has set up numerous outposts in the Barren land, the largest being the Crossroads at the intersection of two major roads and Camp Traho, a Tauren outpost near the border to Mulgore. The Barrens are also dotted with numerous farms populated by orcs and their families, and watchtowers manned by orcish and Tauren guards. The Horde continued to fight against the Razormane and Razorfin Quobor, Kokar Centaur, Burning Blade cultists in the north, or the newly arrived Silithid in the south. The humans of Theramore have also occupied the land and have taken Northwatch Hold as a defensive outpost. The Ironforged dwarves have also established a stronghold near the Titan excavation site of Baal Modan and named the stronghold Baeldun Keep. The Alliance Outrunners were patrolling the area, usually near the southern Gold Road. The neutral goblin port Ratchet, led by Gazlo, was also built here. A group of Cenarian circle druids led by Nerylix arrived to the Wailing Caverns in order to enter the Emerald Dream and restore the harsh land to its former green form. Razorfin Down lies just opposite the road, but this dungeon has been infested by agents of the Scourge and poses a great threat to anyone who's traveling to or from the Thousand Needles. During the Ancrage War, which is coming up later in the season of Discovery but is a big part of classic World of Warcraft, the area was invaded by the armies of Cthulhu, and something was polluting the water and in turn beginning to wreck the Northern Barrens ecosystem. Sick gazelles have been sighted in Northern Barrens, and the Cenarian Circle provided aid. Where this zone, as I mentioned earlier, has three dungeons in this entire zone, one of which is the Wailing Caverns, which is available starting at around like level 21-ish. And then there's Razorfin Craw, which is kind of like a level 30 dungeon, and then Razorfin Downs, which is a level 40 dungeon. And all three of these dungeons are pretty cool, and I'm probably not going to do any of them in this Let's Play series, but we could maybe look at them in some form in the future, potentially. But I really want to talk about the Quobor, where the first dungeon, the Wailing Caverns, is kind of related to the Cenarian Circle led by Nerylix, and then has stuff to do with the Emerald Dream, where the Quobor is really interesting because there is some stuff going on with the Scourge that I find super cool. But let's go ahead and talk about the Quobor in general for now. Where the Quobor are a race of aggressive, primitive, boar-like humanoids native to Kalimdor, Koteris, and the Exiles Reach Island. They have razor-sharp spines protruding from their muscular, hunched backs. These resilient, fearless creatures inhabit the central barrens of Kalimdor, the labyrinthian maze of thorns called Razorfin Downs. Among them, the Quillbore brutes are larger and more powerful male Quillbore, changed by a special ritual. The Quillbore were abundant before the Great Sundering. 10,000 years ago, during the War of the Ancients, the mighty demigod Agamaggan came forth to battle the Burning Legion. Though the colossal boar fell in combat, his actions helped save Azeroth from ruin. Yet over time, in the areas where his blood fell, massive thorn-ridden spines sprouted from the earth. The Quillbore, believed to be the mortal offspring of the mighty god, came to occupy these regions and hold them sacred. The heart of these thorn colonies was known as the Razorfin. After the Great Sundering, as the centuries passed, the Quillbore reappeared and flourished in the land. The Quillbore would eventually settle within the Barrens and wage war against the other races living within the region, like the Thorn. This way of life would move forward without incident until the beginning of the Third War. Under the guidance of a mysterious prophet, the Horde left Lordaeron for Kalimdor. Soon after landing on Kalimdor, the Horde would quickly befriend the Tauren and make enemies of the Quillbore who attacked them on sight. Generally treating the Quillbore as a nuisance, the Horde fought them when provoked, but striking against the Quillbore was not a top priority. However, circumstances did force Rexxar and his companions to seemingly wipe out a tribe in the Beastens sometime after the Battle of Mount Hyjal. Before the Orcs came, the Quillbore were more common in the land that would become Durotar. Years after the Third War, the Quillbore tribes made their homes throughout Mulgore, Durotar, and the Barrens and defended their territory while striking out against the Horde. While most tribes were independent, the Razorfin tribe entered into an alliance with the Scourge, who have bolstered their forces with them and allowed Eminar the Codebringer to transform Razorfin Downs into a Scourge stronghold. The Razorfin tribe is a tribe of Quillbore led by Charga Razorflank. The tribe controls both Razorfin Craw and the Razorfin Downs, where Charga Razorflank, the crone, is an elite Quillbore boss found in Razorfin Craw. She is the leader of the Razorfin tribe. Charga also officially leads the Death's Head tribe, but Eminar the Codebringer controls it. Where under her rule, the Quillbore of the Razorfin Craw drove the Tauren away from the southern Barrens. Charga had even been negotiating with agents of the Scourge, aligning her unsuspecting tribe with the ranks of the undead for some insidious purpose. Charga is a tenacious leader and a powerful geomancer. Charga manipulated her followers into attacking denizens of the Barrens, lying to her Quillbore that they needed blood to revive Agamaggan. Charga Razorflank also shaped most of the Thorn Dome of Razorfin Downs. She trained Chigara to maintain the dome. Where lastly, Eminar the Codebringer is an elite Lich boss found in Razorfin Downs, sitting atop the Spiral of Thorns, a mountain of massive spiked vines infested with his undead minions around a brazier burning with cold flames. He is the leader of Death's Head tribe, a group of undead Quillbores allied with the Scourge. Apparently, his is also its creator. He is credited in the book Compendium of Fallen Heroes for making the abomination Tartek the Enraged, which single-handedly slew more than 1,200 Quillbore before falling. The corpses were quickly raised by Eminar, creating the first major Scourge outpost on Kalimdor. He now rules the Death's Head's every move through the power of his massive consciousness. In order to put an end to this threat, heroes of both factions were sent by Archbishop Benedictus and Andrew Brownell to destroy the Lich. Well, I have now completed a lot of quests in the Barrens, where I'm now level 18. I have an axe, which is pretty cool. And if we look at our map, I have indeed completed many quests, where I have some dungeon quests here in Ratchet, and then these are dungeon quests here. And then we kind of have this line in the ground we can see right here that leads to Southern Barrens, which is basically the next big chunk of questing that I have to do, which is in the Southern Barrens, except for Serana Bloodfeather up here that I'll get at some point. Plus, we now have some other zones that we can go to, but that is for another episode, where I want to go on one last adventure in this episode, where we started in Durotar, which is home to the Orcs and Trolls, and then we have the Barrens, and on the other side of the Barrens we have Mulgore, which is the home to the Tauren, where we see right here I have one quest to turn in for the Darkmoon Fair, which I explored in my Human Mage Let's Play series, but I wanted to check it out really quickly as well. But we have a quest to go to Camp Taraho, which I have not been to yet, here in the Southern Barrens, so I can get this flight path, and then I will do all these quests another time, I think. But I have another quest to go to the capital city in Mulgore, Thunder Bluff, and I have another quest to go to the capital city in Thunder Bluff, where I've been waiting to pick up this one because it is a timed quest where we only have 45 minutes in order to get to Thunder Bluff, which is more than enough time. But we have another quest here, one which is going to take us to the Eastern Kingdoms, which I'm going to pick up later, and then one that is going to take us to Thunder Bluff, and it puts an item in our inventory, so I was waiting for that. And then I want to pick up these two quests from Mankrik, because Mankrik is one of the most popular characters in World of Warcraft, where he's actually existed throughout the course of World of Warcraft, starting in vanilla here and moving forward in expansions as kind of a larger character. But he starts here where his wife was killed by the Quillboar, or he suspects that his wife was killed. So there is a very famous quest where we have Lost in Battle, where we need to find Mankrik's wife. And I've talked a lot about how the Barrens is a really interesting zone just because of like the culture that has kind of like been developed in this zone in World of Warcraft Classic. And one of the most popular memes, I guess you could say, is where is Mankrik's wife? Which is a question that people will throw in the chat at all. Because if you look at the quest here, he says that his wife was overwhelmed in a small Thorn camp, and there is a variety of Thorn camps around the Barrens, and then I think a lot of people just don't know where she is in general, at least like way back in the day where there wasn't Questy, there weren't a lot of like internet resources and stuff like that, so people would ask in general chat all the time where Mankrik's wife was, and some people would be helpful and some people would come up with more creative answers. But I thought we can go discover the fate of Mankrik's wife, which is that she died, and we can kind of like complete this part of the quest, where I'm not going to do the other one just yet, where we need to kill a bunch of Quillboar to get 60 Quillboar tusks. But we can also head to Camp Draho, and then we can also head into Thunder Bluff, where of course we now have 42.5 minutes left on this quest, where if we decided to kind of do this in advance a little bit, we could have run to Camp Draho and then to Thunder Bluff, get the flight path, fly back to the Crossroads, pick up the quest, and then fly back to Thunder Bluff. But we have more than enough time even for a bunch of like side trekking and like tangents I want to go on. Where as we run along the Gold Road here, we have this bridge, which this bridge is kind of the division between the northern and the southern Barrens, which we see become an actual thing in Cataclysm, but is a little bit of a thing here in vanilla World of Warcraft, where the northern Barrens is like a pretty low level area, and then the southern Barrens is like a higher level area, where we start in the Crossroads and then we get a quest to go talk to Jorn Skyseer in Camp Draho, which basically leads to a bunch more quests for us to do, where there is less stuff going on in the Southern Barrens, where we do the Southern Barrens alongside other zones, and we are kind of going to be hopping around a bunch of different zones in the next few episodes. But we're going to be doing a lot of stuff in the Barrens as well, because there's still a lot of stuff to do. One I wish is to come to this small Thorn camp right here, which is the location where Mankrik's wife was unfortunately beaten and killed, where if we do a little bit of parkour, we can go over that fence and then we can interact with this corpse, and we can tell that it is the same orc that was described to us by Mankrik, and we can return to the Crossroads and basically inform him about that, where he goes into a little bit of a rage that we see in the Cataclysm expansion, which I don't think we're ever going to experience it, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, so just skip ahead for 15 seconds. But he basically goes on a rampage against the Quillboars and kind of picks up the blade and becomes like a blade master, which is a really cool part of like orc lore, and just annihilates a bunch of Quillboar. But we can go ahead and continue along the road here, where we are getting pretty close to Camp Draho, as we can see coming in on the distance. And here is Camp Draho, which is a pretty cool location, and it's like a basic Tauren town, where the Crossroads is very similar to Camp Draho, but it's more orcish, I feel like, where this is more like Taurenish or Tourne or whatever the word is, which of course we have Mulgore right there on the horizon. Let's go ahead, run over here to Jorn Skyseer, where we can turn in this quest, and then we get a little bit of experience, and then we have a new quest here, northwest of Ratchet, so I guess I'll go ahead and pick that up. But we have this Wind Rider Master here, and I have gotten that, so I'm going to go ahead and run into Mulgore, which there's a lot of stuff that I want to do in Mulgore and Thunder Bluff, so there's going to be quite a bit of stuff that we're going to be throwing in at the end of this episode. But of course, Mulgore is a really beautiful zone, and it's like a really popular zone as well just because of how beautiful it is, and people tend to enjoy the questing here as well. I definitely enjoy the questing quite a bit. I think I enjoy it more than Durotar, but less than Terraswag Glades, which is the undead starting zone, where I do have plans to experience Mulgore more in depth in the future, but that is something for the future. But we can go ahead and just run through this location, and I'm basically just going to beeline to the base of Thunder Bluff, which, yes, of course, it is the base of Thunder Bluff because it is a city that is atop a bunch of basically like mountains or bluffs, as the name suggests. But let's go ahead and run through Mulgore, where we have a lot of wildlife all around us. And there are some centaurs, which are right there, we can see, that wander around this area. And then there are a few iconic locations in this zone, but I'm going to leave that for the future. So let's get towards Thunder Bluff. As we run along the road here, we can see Thunder Bluff coming into view, which, yes, as I mentioned, it is on top of a bunch of bluffs, and there are some elevators that go up to it, which there are 2 sets of elevators here, and we are going to go up this one, and the other one acts as like a little bit of a back entrance. And then these types of elevators are not exclusive to Thunder Bluff, and there are some other areas, 2 specific other areas in Kalimdor where we can experience this, but that's going to be for the future. Where before we go into Thunder Bluff, I'm going to take a detour to the Darkmoon Fair, which I spent a lot of time exploring the Darkmoon Fair in my Human Mage Let's Play series, and I'll go ahead and throw down a link to that specific episode down in the description if you want to experience that a little bit more. But we can just run around a little bit as the music kicks in and go ahead. We have this talk machine here where we can, like, I think there's some sort of shoot command somewhere, not entirely sure, but I'll cancel that. We get stunned for a moment, and I'm mostly just going to go ahead and turn in this quest, which is going to give us 5 Darkmoon Fair prize tickets, and then we can turn these tickets into either a Darkmoon flower or a minor Darkmoon prize, or we can spend some time getting more prize tickets, and we can go ahead and like get a bigger prize, but I'm just going to get the minor Darkmoon prize, I think. So we can turn this in and get this minor Darkmoon prize, and then we can open it, which guaranteed to contain an item of value, where we got a bright cloak, which looks to be better than what we currently have equipped. So this is a little bit of an upgrade. I think I want this. It's like different stats, so it's sacrificing intellect for stamina and then giving us more armor and spirit. So I think I'll take that, and we can go ahead and equip this. And oh, definitely better. I like the look of this a little bit more. The color's not my favorite, but I just like long capes, like a lot of people enjoy. But this is pretty much the Darkmoon Fair, where there is one more thing that I want to do, but I want to do it in a little bit. And of course, the Darkmoon Fair is a pretty fun place, where I am 5 minutes away from Sunday, recording this, Sunday North America, where of course the Darkmoon Fair goes away at the end of Sunday. So that is going to be like 3 days before, like 2.5 days before I upload this video. So if you are kind of watching this at the same time that I'm making this video or releasing this video, the Darkmoon Fair is no longer here. But next month, the first full week of the month, starting on that Monday or whatever, the Darkmoon Fair will return. Where the Darkmoon Fair in Classic is pretty cool, but I like it a little bit more in Retail. But let's go ahead and come up here, where we can go ahead and take one of these 2 elevators up, where of course there's one that is a back exit as well, and then we can go ahead and enter Thunder Bluff. So here's the elevator. Let's go ahead and get on the cart or whatever here, and then we can go ahead and just ride up a little bit, where we can see the edge of this mountain here, and then as we reach the top, we can enter Thunder Bluff, which is a really cool city that is kind of like an unpopular city, but in the Season of Discovery it is much more popular because there is a level 25 raid that is a 10-man raid that has a drop from the final boss or whatever, where people come here to turn it in, and then everyone in the city gets a buff, which this is kind of a practice that we see throughout vanilla World of Warcraft with different raids where people get drops to turn in and everyone gets like a 2-hour buff, and that is a very prominent part of kind of in-game content. And it is a little bit of a thing going on here in Thunder Bluff, and it has become more popular because of that, because you come here to turn it in and you come here to get the buff, and it's kind of just reignited a lot of people's interest in the city, where it's not necessarily a bad city, it's just like not as great as like Orgrimmar, so it's basically like not a lot of people come here because people prefer to go to like the best one, like specifically. But we are going to do a few different things, where the first thing that I want to do, since we only have 28 minutes left on the timer, we should just get it out of the way, is to come over here to the Spirit Rise, where here in Thunder Bluff, the Thorn are a really interesting culture that we are going to talk more about in the future, but they're kind of peaceful to everybody, where they are basically the race that invited the undead into the Horde, more or less, where they really like took them into their grasps and vouched for them to the war chief of the Horde, Thrall. And we have here is a little bit of an undead settlement in Thunder Bluff, where there's a bunch of undead hanging around here. There's a mage trainer and a priest trainer, where Thorn can't be those, but here we have the opportunity to learn all of that, and we can go ahead and turn in this quest to Apothecary Zama, and I'm going to go ahead and pick the Swiftness Potion because it's like the best one we can pick. And then this is a quest for a dungeon, and then here we have a quest that will take us to the Eastern Kingdoms, but I think I'm going to pick that up in the future, and we can explore that in the future, where this is a very common bug in Classic WoW, where we still have the timer here, but it's no longer ticking down, and once our UI reloads, if that's from us like having to like reload it from logging in or out or Hearthstoning or whatever, or if I'm typing in the reload command, we can fix that, but that's just hanging out right there. And no, we don't have 27 minutes and 24 seconds to turn in this quest. But let's go ahead, and if you look at our map, we have one more quest to turn in, and then I should go get the flight path, and then we can do a couple of other things. So let's go ahead and go over to the Elder Rise, where here is the other set of elevators in the Thunder Bluff. And if we kind of take a moment to look at the map here, we can see that there are 3 offshoots to the central city, and then the central city has 3 different layers, where you can either go to like one of the offshoots and then go up on the other bridge, or you can go to the central tower of the city where the flight path is and just run up. So it's a really interesting city to navigate. That's like pretty straightforward, but it's a little bit of a unique situation that's going on. But here is the Elder Rise, and here is Archdruid Hamul Rune Totem, who is a pretty important lore character. Doesn't have too much stuff going on in vanilla WoW, but we can go ahead and pick up this quest where we have to go talk to Nara Wildmane right over here, and then I can go ahead and get a little bit of extra experience, and this leads to another quest that I am not going to turn in. But here we have the High Chieftain of the Thorn, Cairn Bloodhoof.
We Tauren have always held a great respect for the works of the Earth Mother,
who is a cool character. But here is the Flight Master, and now we have unlocked a bunch of flight paths around Kalimdor, where we have Orgrimmar, Ratchet, the Crossroads, Camp Drawhole, and Thunder Bluff. So let's go ahead and do a couple more things before we return to the Crossroads, where I want to drop down here, and I want to go to my bank, because I have collected many things throughout my Let's Play series, where I have some stuff in my bags, and then I have a lot of stuff in my bank. And I kind of want to showcase the auction house, which is basically player trading, but in like a more structured way, where we can open a trading window with other players, and we can go ahead and like sell stuff to them, or we can say, I'll give you this for this, and you can like trade goods directly. So say I need like 20 silver leaf and I'm a skinner, I can give them like 20 light leather in return. And that's kind of just like an interesting concept that like we can participate in if we wanted to, which I'm not going to do a lot of in this series, but something that I will be doing a lot of is this auction house trading, where I have a bunch of items here, and I think this is just a good start, where we can go ahead and leave the bank right there, and we can come over here to Auctioneer Stampede, and we can go ahead and open this window where I am playing without any add-ons. So this is kind of just like the vanilla auction house, where we have browse, we have bids, which basically shows us like what we are currently bidding on, and then we have auctions. So in the browse window, we can go ahead and search, and then the first result here is Claw of the Shadowmancer, where we can either buy this out directly for 20 gold, or we can put a bid, which would then go in the bids here, for 19 gold, and people can bid higher than that, or they can buy it outright. where not a lot of people really do stuff with like bidding. Most of the time people just like do stuff with buyouts, where if you look at the highest, well, this is the lowest bid for 69 copper or 1 silver here, but if you look at the highest buyout, it is 600 gold, which I think is something that people have because of something called botting and real world transactions, where they spend real life money for gold because they don't want to farm gold and just want to buy raid items. But I made a whole video about that. But here we can spend 600 gold to get this if you wanted to, which I think is a drop from the wetlands. But I want to go ahead and open our bags here, and let's search for linen cloth, where I'm going to go by the lowest bid because I want to basically make sure that my stuff is cheaper than everyone else. And this is a really annoying thing without having any add-ons, is that we will occasionally have to scroll through a lot of windows here for people just putting a single item up for auction for some reason. I don't know why people do that. 4 silver and 35 copper for that. And then let's look at Peace Bloom, where I have 5. And let's go ahead and maybe just sell this for like a single silver there. And then I'm not sure if anyone buys scorpion stingers. We can go ahead and just throw them on the auction house and see if they happen. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and sell them straight to a vendor because they sell for like a decent amount of money, and I think it would be a waste of money to throw it on the auction house. Here we have a small lustrous pearl. Let's go ahead, throw this on the auction house for how about 3 silver and 49 copper, so it's 10 copper cheaper than the next one. So that's a little bit of an undercut. And then we have Thunder Lizard Tail here, which I'm not sure what exactly this is used for. Let's do a bit of a bigger undercut and go 1 silver, 99 copper. And we go 99 because we're like ruthless businessmen or whatever. Malachite, looks like 15 copper. It doesn't really sell for too much. I'll just throw this in. Actually, I might just sell this to a vendor. I don't think it's really worth the effort. How about Tiger's Eye? I think it's kind of the same situation. Looks like it sells for a little bit better. So let's go ahead and sell this for, not 30. I mean, I would be happy to get 30 silver for that, but let's just sell it for 3 silver. And then let's go ahead and finish this up a little. Where I think that's all I want to sell now, and then when we start to the next episode, we can see how much money we made from the auction house, which is not going to be a lot of money because we are early on in the game, and it's still early in the game's lifespan, where there is not a ton of gold in the economy just yet, and there's not a ton of materials in the economy just yet, and the economy is more concentrated around like the amount of gold we're currently earning from like questing and whatnot, and also the items that we currently get and the items that are currently useful for level 25 characters and for the crafting we can do at this level. But that is pretty much everything that I wanted to do with the auction house, and then we have turned in all the quests we needed to do in Thunder Bluff, and we checked out the Darkmoon Fair, and we checked out some stuff in the Southern Barrens, including going to Camp Taraho. But there's one more thing with the Darkmoon Fair left that I want to do, and it is to come over here to the Darkmoon Fair Cannoneer, where this is a pretty fun thing where we can go ahead and walk around here, and then we can hop into the cannon, and the cannon is going to blast us across Mulgore, where basically we have a target in the water over here near the torn town of Bloodhoof Village that we can try to land in if we wanted to, or we can just let the wings take us as far as possible. But let's go ahead, maybe we just aim for it. I think we want to go not there. I am dead, aren't I? I'm dead. Looks like somebody else made the same mistake as I did. We had to let go a little bit earlier than that. Fortunately, and potentially by design, the graveyard is right here. So I just saw that person flying and die as well. So let's go ahead and Hearthstone back to the Crossroads, and let's go ahead and talk to Mancrick, and then I think I'm going to log out for the evening. No matter what though, that is a nice way to go from Thunder Bluff back to Bloodhoof Village if you are questing in Mulgore. But here we are back in the Crossroads, and I did not mean to press 2, I meant to press Q. Let's come over here, talk to Mancrick, and we can turn in Lost in Battle. So we get 9 silver, and we also got 1,150 experience, which is going to be the end of our journey in this episode. We're starting off in the next episode. I want to go to a brand new zone, and I want to explore that zone, and then we're going to spend a little bit more time in the Barrens, where we're probably going to be doing less stuff in the next episode, where I did a ton of quests during this episode, and I think I'm going to slow down a little bit after that. But I just wanted to get through a bunch of the boring quests here in the Barrens. But I hope you all enjoyed watching. We talked about a lot of stuff in this episode, and we did a lot of things in this episode, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Remember to drink some water, check your posture, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time in the world of Azeroth. Goodbye.